Well, Jordan, as you indicated earlier, I love Alabama. Alabama, last year, this team was ranked #1 in the nation going into the SEC title game, and they played a terrific game versus Florida. They hardly lost that game, and I know they did lose the Sugar Bowl game. But you know what?
They weren't ready.
Alabama's just saying, where's the love? Where's the love? This team returns 10 starters on defense. So they have the second best defense in the SEC just behind Florida, which Florida has the best defense in the country. So you could make the case that Alabama has maybe one of the top 10, top 5 defenses in the country. Offense will be a bit of a question mark, but the last few times they've had to make quarterback changes, they've made good transitions. You know, when they went to Croyle to John Parker Wilson, it was a good transition. So I think there'll be another good transition to quarterback. But, man, that defense is going to be tough. I like Alabama. I like Nick Saban. You know, this year was supposed to be the year that Alabama really showed everybody what they were going to be. Last year they did it. So this year, I think they have a chance to be even better. You get some of those Nick Saban recruits in there. You know, he keeps getting those great recruiting classes. I like Alabama. But, you know, I do agree, though, that, I mean, I think Florida obviously is the best team in the SEC. But I think you look at 2, 3, and 4, you can put LSU, Alabama, Ole Miss in any order. With Ole Miss, though, I just think it's completely different when you're playing with the bullseye on your back than when you're trying to be the team that upsets other teams. You know, I think that's going to be interesting to see what happens with Ole Miss. But I do think Houston Nutt's a great coach. I think LSU
and I like the way his Arkansas teams responded when they had the bullseye, you know, on their chest. Everyone knew that was the team to go. Everyone knew Darren McFadden was a player to stop. Ole Miss or Houston Nutt did not change up his game plan at Arkansas. They still had success with it. So you got to watch out. Speaking of my Hogs, I like them to turn some heads this season as well.
I completely agree with
I
that.
know Mike feels the same way. They have Ryan Mallett at quarterback, just the type of player that Bobby Petrino needs in that system. And Joe Adams, they have some good receivers there. Michael Smith at running back. He had some impressive games last year, kind of went under the radar because the entire Razorbacks team belonged under the radar. But watch for them to win 1 or 2 games that kind of shake up that SEC West a little bit, games that people won't be expecting some of these teams we're talking about to lose.
Florida, we all have Florida winning the SEC. But, you know, there's another team that kind of is just sitting there, big old chip on their shoulder, and they're the Georgia Bulldogs. You know, last year at this time, Georgia was the preseason #1. They finished the year at 10-3, and in Athens, that's disappointing. But you know what? This team, if they somehow find a way to beat Florida on a neutral site, you got to think that they have a good chance to at least win their division in the SEC. And I know that's a tall task because Florida does have 11 stars returning on defense, and we've all picked Florida to win the SEC. But hey, I mean, the SEC East is really weak. Georgia only has 3 true road SEC games. And I like the fact that, you know, they have to play Kentucky, Vanderbilt, South Carolina. Tennessee's down. They get LSU between the hedges in Athens. So, you know, if Florida somehow loses that game, you got to like Georgia. You got to think that they have a good chance. But, of course, I mean, that's just speculation. I mean, Florida's going to win. I mean, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. Talk about the Big Ten.
Okay.
We're in Big Ten country here. Let's talk about the Big Ten. Jordan, who do you got to win the Big Ten?
I don't think you'll like this pick very much, but looking at the teams coming back, and just looking at the talent level, it's tough because the top 2 dogs in the conference, Penn State and Ohio State, you know, Michigan's no longer anywhere near that conversation. Penn State and Ohio State, they both lost some tremendous talent at the wide receiver position, both with quarterbacks who I think were able to benefit from having an outstanding receiving core around them. However, I do think that Penn State's going to feel it the most. Why? Because even though Ohio State also lost Beanie Wells, Evan Royster had some big games last year, and so did Darryl Clark, because those 3 receivers were able to open things up for him. Not so much this year. I think Ohio State is going to win the Big Ten, and I just think they have too much talent stacked in the wings year after year to not win the conference.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, the Big Ten, it's kind of hard to pick. I'm with you. But I'm going to go with Penn State. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I like that Penn State has Iowa and Ohio State at home. And playing in Happy Valley, it's very difficult. I mean, I know we'll discuss how Iowa's had success there.
You bet.
But
I will discuss that.
And I think that's very valid. But just on paper and looking the way it's set up, I think Penn State's schedule is tailored in their favor with the toughest teams in the Big Ten, at least arguably at this point, playing at home. So I'm going to take them. I like Darryl Clark. I like Evan Royster. They lose a lot. Navarro Bowman will be a big leader on defense. It'll be interesting to see how that linebacking core can step up. They lost Mike Mouty, but I think the winner of the Big Ten is going to have a loss. But I think Penn State's going to walk out of there as a Big Ten champion.
You know, I do think the Big Ten is going to be a better conference than it was last year. I mean, I do think it's true that probably the champion will have a loss. And who's that champion going to be? It's going to be the University of Iowa. I love Iowa. I'm telling you why they're going to win the conference right now. I love experienced football teams. Iowa's the second most experienced team in the Big Ten. The only team that's more experienced is Minnesota, and we all know why, because when all those guys were freshmen, they lost a lot of football games, and now they're juniors. That's why they're a lot more experienced than Iowa. But you take a look at their offensive line. 92 combined starts. That's over 20 more than the team that's in second place in that statistical category in the Big Ten. I like the fact that we got a great receiving core. I think you could argue that this is going to be the best receiving core that Kirk Ferentz has had here at Iowa. I know the running back situation, we don't really know what's going on right now because there are some injuries, but I think that will, that will pan out. I mean, you got to think that will happen, just like in 04 when it panned out in our favor. And I also like the fact that we got a great coach in Kirk Ferentz. I'm going to give some love to Kirk Ferentz because Kirk Ferentz always finds a way to win games. I know the past few years, before 2008, we did have a couple rough years. But if you take a look at the Big Ten championship teams that Ferentz has had, they found a way to win the big road games. And what do experienced teams do? They go out and they win the big road games. You took a look in 2004. Iowa wins some big road games. 2002, I'll never forget the way we went to Michigan and just massacred them in the Big House. So I like Iowa. I'm going to pick Iowa.
It's a great pick, and I think that I wouldn't be surprised. There are people on other campuses that are fearing the Hawkeyes this year, and I think that's an outstanding pick. And I think it would be a disappointment if they didn't finish any higher than second place, or if they finished second place, that's acceptable this year.
Yeah.
Anything below that, I don't know. This team's great. Keenan Davis, a great true freshman to watch out for on that freshman or that receiving core, and he just got named to the leadership committee for Iowa football. And every single player on that little group of leaders, they always perform outstanding on the field.
Yeah, look, I don't want to argue against the Hawkeyes because you know I love them, but I just think with our road schedule the way it is, I would be shocked. If we can go 3-2 on the road, I would be ecstatic. I think it's just going to be really, really hard, not to get injured a little bit, not to get banged up, and be able to win 4 or even all of those road games. Mm-hmm. I know there's 4 Big Ten road games in the Iowa State game, which is always difficult, but I just don't think the Hawks can pull all those games out on the road. Mm-hmm. I hope if Stanzi can step up and we have a strong running game, we know our line's great, then there's a good chance. But right now at this point, it's hard for me to make that prediction.
Well, time is up tonight on Incompetent Sports Talk. If you have any comments, you can email them to us at uiowaist@gmail.com. And don't forget, Hawks are going to win the Big Ten. For Jordan Loperena, Mike Rabon, I'm Alex Solsma. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week.